Hey everybody, it's Hall of Famer Devon Dudley here, 24-time World Tag Team Champions. Now I've been up and down the highways creating history and all of that. But this podcast that I'm about to talk about, they're creating history. And I think you should be able to not only watch it, follow it, subscribe it, but tell other people about it. It's called Smart Tank Revolutions. Again, Smart Tank Revolutions. Check it out, because if you don't, I'll put your ass through a table. Now testify.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Smart Tank Revolution, where we always kick out at 2. I am your host, flying solo today. The benevolent, intelligent, the excellence of elocution, Mr. Donnie Wonderful. And I am watching on YouTube, courtesy of WWE Vault. It was released 3 days ago. Today is Sunday, April 13th, 2025. I'll even give you 4:45 Eastern Standard Time. But I am watching the story of Stone Cold versus Bret Hart at WrestleMania 13. This beautiful collection of bean footage is approximately 46 minutes and 22 seconds long. It is a retro blast. I've hopped in the DeLorean and we are back. It brings us back to 1996. It started back in October. Bret Hart's famous, I was going to say infamous, but his famous promo. Well, you know, back then it wasn't even really a promo. That was an interview. Bret's being Bret. He's being himself. Happens to be a professional wrestler. But the interview segment where he returns and mentions that a lucrative offer was made to him by a rival company, and we all knew that to be WCW. So, I mean, that was very shooty. And then one of my favorite scenes in that is when he says he'll come back to wrestle Stone Cold Steve Austin at the Survivor Series in Madison Square Garden. And it shows that the boys are back there watching. In front of that television monitor was Stone Cold Steve Austin. To his left, I think was T.L. Hopper. But directly behind Stone Cold Steve Austin was Brian Pillman about that announcement. And he even jumped for joy. He was giddy. He was giddy like, as Jim Cornette would say, like a schoolgirl with a shiny new vibrator. I mean, hell, even I believe I even did a somersault in my living room. And then Stone Cold turns around and looks at him like, "What the hell are you so happy about?" Everything about this was excellent. It gave a Tyson Holyfield type. Man, you'd have had to have been around. Let me think of a more modern analogy. If you weren't around back in 1996, or even you started before then, so you probably wouldn't connect with the gravity of a Tyson and Holyfield matchup. As a matter of fact, I won't even look for a parallel to make it all. What I would say is one of the things that I've enjoyed about this, I've always enjoyed about it, was that I believe it was on the Superstars, and this is purely unedited, raw, uncut, everything off the top of the dome, scraping the craters of my brain for this memory and data. It was Superstars. It was aired on, of course, on Saturday morning, if you remember that. Brian Pillman and Stone Cold interview in the ring, where Stone Cold calls out Bret Hart. And Stone Cold, the baddest SOB, the best wrestler in the company at the time. Well, that's debatable, because Shawn Michaels was in his prime. You had Undertaker there. The Rock was emerging. Good storytellers. Mick Foley. There was tons of talent. But Stone Cold professed himself as the best there is, and wanted to whoop the man who claimed to be the best there is, best there was, and the best there ever will be. And he did it very brashly. Oh, man, like 1996 heel Stone Cold Steve Austin was nothing to mess with, nothing to play with. He had the attitude. I think that's one of the reasons why we all eventually levitated towards him. And I hated that he went against Bret and all the things he did against Bret. And I encourage you all to watch this. It's going to be a hell of a Hall of Fame speech this Friday. But this is a great summation of it. Man, I hated every part of it, but I loved Stone Cold's brashness. Loved it. Because this is how we all were. It's all we all were. Middle fingers up. You know, we'll kick you in the balls if we had to get out. You know, it's Stone Cold Steve Austin definitely was and is still a badass, one of my favorite ones. But he was going against my favorite wrestler. And there was nothing else needed except for the attitude that the best wanted to wrestle the best. It's what we see in boxing. Well, not so much in boxing because of the politics, but we definitely see it more in UFC. And so we didn't need any overdramatic stories. We didn't need any emotional ties to this. This is back when the matchups and the pairings were what we focused on. And yeah, there may have been a good promo here and there, and yeah, there may have been some drama in those promos, but it stemmed off the pairing, and that's something that we don't get now. I believe ever since the Attitude Era, it's made a 180. I was just with my esteemed colleague. Shout out to you, Mr. Joey Business. We were eating Kentucky Fried Chicken, and I perpetuated every stereotype there was. But yes, we were eating Kentucky Fried Chicken, and we were discussing wrestling, as we always do, amongst other things. But I remember saying that I can really fast forward the wrestling on Raw and SmackDown and just watch the promos and get caught up on stuff. Back then, back in the new generation era, the wrestling was more important. If you taped, believe it or not, the VCR contraption was our main source of quote-unquote DVRing things. But if you're watching Raw, you're watching and paying attention to the wrestling a lot more than the promos. And it's been a good and bad thing. I appreciate both styles, but man, getting back to this. Hold on, let me unpause it. Let's see if you guys can hear a little bit of Bret in the, I guess this was the pre Attitude Era, or where it began. Okay, so I'm gonna pause it right here. Bret doesn't necessarily say all the words, right? He's in for the worst trashing. He meant thrashing, but we get it. We get it. You see the beauty in his flaws? He's being himself. An average, normal person could make that mistake, but the conviction was there. I had to turn this mic on because I'm utterly enjoying every second of this 46-minute and 22-second video that's on the YouTube page for WWE Vault, titled The Story of Stone Cold vs. Bret Hart at WrestleMania 13, the very first match to be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. And in my opinion, the highest, the apex of WrestleMania matches in the history of WrestleMania. I don't think there has been a match that has ever topped this. Not your classics, not your Steamboats and Savages. I love them all. Not your Undertakers and HBKs. Not your Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes, which those two matches for those 2 years actually deserve a lot more praise. And I know we're just off the heels of them, but those are pretty damn good matches. And they'll inevitably make their way into the same Hall of Fame, in my opinion. But we won't forget the inaugural match, the best amongst WrestleManias has ever offered. Bret Hart, Stone Cold Steve Austin, I Quit match. Ken Shamrock as the enforcer. Jerry Lawler. Was it Jerry Lawler? I forgot who was on commentary. I think it was Jerry Lawler and JR. Oh no, it may have been Vince McMahon. So let me somebody let me know in the comment section. We make mistakes. Like I said, it's unedited, off the top of the dome. I'm flawed, just like all human beings are. But wanted to share that with you all. Let us know what you all think. Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Bret Hart at WrestleMania 13. WWE Vault. Check it out. Let us know what you think. Donnie Wonderful, signing off.